Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the screenwriting step-by-step project, volume 56, chapter 56, episode 56. My name is Glenn Gers. I am writing a drama pilot script from rough idea to finished draft and letting you look over my shoulder bit by bit every day. In the hopes that I can make it less bizarre and frightening for the people who have never tried it. I have been a screenwriter professionally for 25 years, and I thought this would be a cool way to try and deal with all the realities of writing a script that writing classes and writing videos and things don't really get to because it's just too weird and bit by bit. So I'm doing it bit by bit every weekday. If I can do it, 3 p.m. Standard Time, Pacific Standard Time, not just Standard Time. It's my standard, but Pacific Standard Time. I am here if I can be, and I am happy to answer questions if I can. To those who are watching live and want to ask in the chat, if you are watching this upon a recorded video on my channel, if you are watching an old episode, it's okay. First of all, thank you. Second of all, you can still ask questions because I have a website, writingforscreens.com, and the website has contact me buttons all over the place. And if you click on it, it opens a little window that sends me an email. Well, if you fill it in and send it. And that's one way to ask me questions. The other way is you can ask me a question or leave me a comment in the comments of this very video or any video on the channel. And it will zoom to me through the internet wiring and wirelessness, and I will try to answer it as best I can, as soon as I can. And look at this. We got a bunch of people here. We got Double Knot and Wolf Powers, and This Is Kitschy, and Foam Heart, and Alex, Almaguera, and Paula Salas, who I don't think I've ever seen before. Hello, Paula, and 99 Precinct, and you're all here, and I am very glad. Welcome. Hi. Let's do some writing. In fact, I already started. I did some writing last night without telling you. I did not come on live and say, hey, it's 11 o'clock at night and I just was brushing my teeth. This actually is how it happened. I was brushing my teeth and I thought of something, and I do not know the exact idea of how I thought of it. I will think about that now. I was brushing my teeth, and I wrote this here so I would remember to tell you that. Okay, so I was thinking about Madeleine. I was thinking about this idea that, hold on, let me just see what I wrote here. Yeah. I was thinking about how we left it with Madeleine trying to talk about her relationship with George. And I was thinking about the idea that when he decided to make her the next of kin, he was doing that for a specific reason. And it was not because he was trying to get her back. And it was not because he was still in love with her in that sense. It was because he thought of her as competent, as strong, as smart, as somebody who would do a good job with this task. And so I wanted to write about that. And this happens. This is something you should know. Once you start writing something, it is in your head and it will pop up at weird moments. Because you'll think, oh, well, like, where did I leave off? Or what am I going to be doing tomorrow? I think I was thinking, what is the next scene going to be? Because I think we've pretty much finished roughing in this scene. So that will happen to you all the time at weird parts of the day, usually when you are doing something commonplace, brushing your teeth, washing the dishes, walking the dog, whatever it is that you do that lets your mind just sort of drift and solve problems. And then you will solve this problem. So I had a moment where lines of dialogue started to come to me. And what I thought was, And so the first thing I did, and this is the important thing, is I went and wrote it down. I knew I was not, hold on, let me see if I've got this. Yes, I do. Boom. Okay, so this is the thing. When you have a script and you think of an idea, write it down. Don't let it float away and you think, oh yeah, sure, I'll get that later. You're not going to get it later. Write it down the moment you have it. Luckily, I was near my computer. I just went into the other room and I opened the document and I wrote dialogue. I actually wrote it in a different part of the scene. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this, what I wrote. This was it. I thought that Elms points out that he actually didn't make her next of kin until after they were divorced. The idea is, the way this dialogue goes is she's all upset and Elms is leaving, but then he stops. He stops in the doorway and he turns around and he says, "You were divorced in 1990. Because he knows this because he's been researching George, because George is the victim. And then I said, but he didn't make you his next of kin until 1992, which she did not know. And she says, I figured he just never got around to change it. In other words, they were married, they were next to kin, and she thought this was just leftovers. And he said, no, he went out of his way to do it. He went to a lawyer 2 years after the last time he saw you. And Madeleine is remembering. He called me maybe then. I don't know. We caught up. He was kind of a mess. I think he wanted to get back together, but I was in college by then. No more music. Working too. Data entry, nights and weekends at Fisher Parnell. That's where you work now. 30 years, she says. And Elm says, you had changed, so he let you go. And he made you his executor because he knew you'd be stable, reliable, trustworthy. And this was really what I was trying to get to. That's who she is. That's when she left him, she became a different person. And that's what I wanted this scene to be about. That the person who we're now going to see get destabilized has been stable, and her thing is security, safety, reliability. For 30 years, that's who she has been. And he now, Elms, is identifying that. He's saying, this is the only reason that George would have done that, or this is my interpretation of what George did. And then, so basically, this is his way of saying something nice to her. He's saying, hey, he did this because you're a strong person, you're a good person. And on her way out, and then he's like, okay, I'm leaving. And she just says, you ought to be a detective or something. In other words, he put together the events of the past and was telling her that as a way of being kind. And what I realized is that's the end of the scene. That I had worked out this scene where they're going to be in conflict. And I haven't gotten that very well written, but I know the idea is that they're in conflict. And then Elms is on his way out, and I will write this better. And what he's doing is he's trying to say something nice, because what I did was then I rewrote everything she says right before then, which is all about how I don't know what to do. I don't know this place. I don't know what's going on. I'm pissed. I'm confused. I'm shaken up. Now, I'm going to probably rewrite that better, but sometimes it's important to just get the blunt version down. Get a version so that you know what this person is thinking and wants to say at this moment. And the fact that she sort of breaks down a little is what makes Elms starts think about saying something kind to her, because she's saying, I don't know what to do. I can't, I have to deal with all this. And so he's saying a kind thing, and she says a kind thing to him back. In other words, she's saying, wow, that's pretty smart. Anyway, so that was what I thought of for this scene. Originally, I just thought of it as just a fact. Oh, George, the reason that George made her the executor was not a crush, a lingering carrying a torch. It was actually a respect for who she had become once she left him. That was the insight. I had something I was going to say to you about this, about how this works. Oh yeah, this is it. Okay, this is cool. This is a thing that I try and do a lot. Here's the deal. When you're trying to define a character, there's a lot of different ways you define a character, but one of the key ones, the most important, is what they do. That is the most defining thing. No matter what somebody says about themselves, what they do pretty much defines who they are. But what they say about themselves often is a way of understanding what they do, because sometimes what they do will have different meanings. You can do the same thing. Like I always say, somebody steals. Are they a thief? What if they steal because their family is hungry? Then they're actually just a good member of the family, and they're breaking the law out of love. If they steal and they give the money away to strangers, that's a different kind of stealing. So the act of stealing itself is not totally defining. The act of stealing and its reason is what really defines the character. But the main thing is that what I did here was I had Elms talk about her, in this case to her, but very often you'll have a character talk about another character, and that's where we get crucial information about who they are or how we should understand them. Yes, you very often have people get to say who they are, but also very often people don't ever say who they are, but someone else says it about them or to them. It's amazing how often you'll get to the point where someone will say, you're an irresponsible jerk. And that's in fact the truth. Or, you're my hero. You saved my family. And that's the truth about this person, even though you may not see it all, in their persona. It's a really good way to define characters, is by having someone talk about them, either to them or to themselves. And what's even better is if that's an action. In other words, what Elms is doing here is not actually giving information. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters to the audience. What he's doing is trying to make her feel better because she feels crappy. She's traumatized and in over her head. And so Elms, by recognizing that on his way out, he's the point of what he is doing is he is doing a kindness. He is trying to say to her, hey, you're a good person, and you were given this trauma because your ex-husband trusted you to take care. So that's just the point of that scene. Let's see what you guys are saying. Yes, she chose an organized life. That's what I really wanted to emphasize, is that George recognized that she had changed. They both knew that their marriage fell apart because he was a disaster area. I'll get into that more in later scenes. I don't even know how he was a disaster area, but I know that as she talks about him, she is going to have to describe that. So I know that that'll come. Yes, exactly. It's a ripple in her life. It's a way of rethinking things or gathering more information. Yes, and it makes George look good. Exactly. It adds a level of humanity and kindness to this story. And that's important to me because I wanted to, that's how I feel. I feel like, oh, despite the trauma and chaos, people are trying to do good. Yes, it's exposition, but it feels like things are being discovered or revealed. That is the key to exposition, if you ask me. Okay, so this ends the scene. And now I'm going to look at the outline. Scene ends. And you see, now originally I had imagined that the scene would end with her sort of like saying, "You're being a jerk, get the heck out of here," or whatever, and I realized that that was just a thought. It wasn't like I need it. It doesn't relate to anything else in the thing. This just feels good. I have redefined the characters based on this discovery I made. Boom. Okay. There are still questions. This is a loose end. So I'm going to put it, I'm actually going to put it, I'm going to put it at the end. The thing about loose ends is you can put them at the beginning or you can put them at the end, but somehow or other, I'm just going down to the end, and I'm putting this here. I have a section here of the outline called spare parts. Okay, so let's go back up. And okay, so I'm going to take our so far so good. I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to paste it here, because now that's how far we've gotten. Okay, so now the thing is, we have been in this location for a while. And in the outline, we are going to stay here because after the police leave, Madeleine starts to cope with all of this. The thing is, we've been in this location for a long time and I would like to get out of it. So what I'm going to do is I know that she is going to get a call from Xena. And she's, what I think I'm going to do is, usually what I had in mind was Xena's calling during this scene above. Xena has been calling, and I wrote that in to the scene with Elms, that every once in a while she's getting a call and then she's just putting it to voicemail. Now, what I thought was, now Xena will call again, and this time Madeleine will pick up because she's alone. But I think we need to cut away to Xena. And what I'm trying to figure out now is what's the best way to do that. I think the best way to do it, is to have Madeleine's phone ring and she once again voicemails it because she just can't deal. Okay. For the moment, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, Xena. Can't you take a hint? So the point about this is that having her decline the call is a mentally good place to then cut to Xena. The same time. One of the good things to know is you're going to do this at the same time. Actually, it's not really it's continuous. There we go. Okay, hold on. Thank you. Is it correct to spend half of the second act in a single location? Shall we say an office, two men talking? It is not incorrect or correct. It is okay if you can make it work. You know, if you're going to make it something so interesting and so building suspense and conceptually cool that nobody feels restless, yeah, that's great. Why not? If you are finding yourself, you know, there isn't an absolute rule. People will generally say don't stay in one place for a long time, and that's true. Unless you're making it a thing. People are trapped in a place. People are engaged in something so intense that they don't leave, and we don't leave them. Then absolutely stay in one place. That can be really cool as long as it's not just boring or unmotivated. If it's something that makes us say, oh my gosh, I'm all wrapped up in this because we're never leaving it. Yeah, there are certainly tons of things where you stay in one location. But yes, Hollywood, the basic Hollywood rule would be try and move around, try and get out of locations, try and change things up. If you've been inside, go outside. If you've been outside, go inside. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But it's not a must. There will be readers who will think it's a must. They're wrong. That's all I can say. But I guarantee you there will be people who will be saying, oh, you can't do that. How can you spend so much time in one place? You know? And the answer is, if it works, it works. And certainly there have been things that have done it. Okay. So now, we meet Xena. Okay, what's Xena's name? What's Xena's last name? Find Xena. Morano. See? There you go. Reed Morano is a cinematographer who became a director, or was I don't know, moved into directing as well. And so I'm using her name for the moment. I like to bold characters' names the first time we introduce them, just so that you say, who? New character. That's just thing. It's the only thing I bold, unless there's like something that you're reading. If you're reading the title of a book or something, sometimes I'll bold that. Okay, so we meet Xena, 23 years old. Airy, luxurious house in Southern California. Well, not her house. The house she grew up in. Well, not her house. The house she grew up in. House. The house she has not yet managed to move out of. Partly because, damn, it's nice. Okay, now what I am doing here is just writing fun stuff to try and get us a flavor. Just, you know, attitude, giving a little, just relaxing the audience a bit. There's a big, clean like the set for a rich person's glam house in a movie or something. I will trim this down at some point, but I just want to sort of like get people to have some fun. Also because my tone is slightly changing because Xena's different than Madeleine or Norman or George. And I little subliminal change of tone to suggest the difference of the character. Now, what I was just doing was what we call writing. What I was doing was just cleaning up the language, making it a little more like changing outside to beyond. It just felt, I don't know, like a better word. You know, cleaning up the language a bit. This will probably not last, but no, you know what? It's not around. Wannabe influencer. Okay, so now we have introduced Xena. As if it has insulted, that's the way that is spelled, insulted her. So what I'm doing here is just writing up some stuff because the point is that she needs to talk to Madeleine. She needs to get permission. What she is looking for is permission to come visit. And we don't know that in the audience, so I'm going to add it. Xena's mom comes through the living room. Xena's mom, are you going to be at dinner? This is not how she's going to actually say it, but hold on. Let me think. I'm looking for a good line. Basically what I'm trying to get to here is Xena's mom going to say something like, you know, do you want this for dinner? Fish for dinner. Um, that's not spelled right. Okay, yeah. So, how does Madeleine know Xena? Again, Madeleine does not yet know Xena. All she knows is that Xena is on her caller ID 5 times in a row when she's trying to cope with things. Xena has been calling her all afternoon because Xena knows Madeleine, because Xena is on the case to try and get access to George's stuff. And I have to think about exactly how she found that out. Did she go through George's papers? Did she actually just talk to George about it? So anyway, the answer is we're going to discover that Xena, because Xena is working this, and what she's going to say is, Xena is going to say, and we're going to get to that soon, she's going to say, I was a friend of George's. I'm so upset. I want to come. I want to come and help you. Help you, really meaning I want to come and get into his private files, which I know are buried underneath the house. That's still not spelled right. Why isn't that telling me it's not spelled right? There we go. Okay, so yeah. I'm not. I don't want to get too into this. This is a lame joke, but so is the caller ID thing like automatic? I'm not sure what you mean, but caller ID caller ID will show up on your phone if the other person has not turned off caller ID. In theory, caller ID will either say the person's name or it will say their number. I'm going to say it was saying her name because I want my life to be easier. Anyway, so yeah, no, Mad didn't write any. We've just seen her, like here, checks the caller ID, Xena again. I'll just, so the point is, this implies that we are doing what they call an insert or a close-up or a cutaway to show the caller ID saying Xena, because it's the only way. But sometime, so she's talking to her phone here. There we go. Anyway, so this is how we. Now, so we got away from Xena. Actually, here's what I should say. Pennsylvania. Vania. So basically, she's like, "Oh, wait, you mean like Pennsylvania, like the place?" A friend of mine just died. Oh my god. See, now the audience, because remember, the audience has no idea who Xena is. And this says, oh, it's a friend of George. Yes, I really try not to imply it because this is actually a very good question that I'm going to talk about briefly. I believe that it is the best screenwriting is the screenwriting that makes you believe that the thing that you are writing, the thing that I am writing about, is happening. That's sort of the cool part about the present tense in scripts is that it's sort of saying this is happening right now. And the more that you can make people just be involved in the moment that the character is living and not worry about how it's being filmed, the more that people like a script. The more that they get involved in it, the more they care. So every time you stop and say, we're showing a close-up of a thing that in our minds, we do a close-up. We do mentally a close-up. If I say to you, she looks at the caller ID, in your mind, you have to go close on the caller ID. Like even in your own mind, when you talk about the things you did in life, if you're going to say, I was chopping up carrots, we just looked closely at a knife chopping up carrots. I don't want to say how it's shot. It doesn't matter. But the steering of language steers the mind as the steering of the camera does in a film. But we're not making a film. We're writing a script. And all we have is language. So the more that I can steer us in so many ways, things like this, the tone here, or like I said, she checks the caller ID. That's all we need to know. Like if they decide to do it without a close-up, but they decide to put the caller ID as a graphic that comes up on the screen, fine, cool. Like texting. Some people shoot texting as we shoot the screen and we do a close-up. Some people do texting as a visual, a special effect, a graphic. I don't care. I mean, like, I'm not making the movie. It doesn't matter. Everybody, that's not your job. Your job is to say what Madeleine is doing, where her mind is, and we're following her mind, and we are seeing the movie in our head that way, whichever way we imagine it. The more that you stop and describe the workings of the filmmaking, the more you pull people out of the script and the worse the experience is. Sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes you have to say, it's a close-up, or you have to say, like, shock cut or whatever it is. There are times when that is urgent because it is the best way to do it, or it's the only way to do it. But if it is not the best and only way to do something, don't talk about how it's being filmed. Usually. Sometimes I will do, like close on the caller ID. It says Xena. That is a perfectly fine way to do it. I'm just saying that in general, I don't want to do that unless it's important. And what I'm really trying to focus on here is the flow of the characters. So I believe in implying as much as possible. Do you guys hear that? Sorry, there's some kind of weird, it sounds like an alarm clock is going off right outside my door. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah. So yeah, that's my theory of screenwriting, and it is not exclusive. It is not right or wrong. Other people do lots of describing of how to shoot things, but I believe that your goal is to make us read a story of a thing that is happening, and the more that we are flowing with that story, the better. Okay, so. I decided not to have her walking out of the room because now she's dealing with things, and I don't want her in the doorway. This is, by the way, too much description, but I'm just doing it because what I'm saying is right now we assume that Mad knows Xena. It's not clear that that was an unknown caller. That's depends. Yes, I have not finished writing it, but no. If depending on how, when I go back through the scene, I have to make clear that she does not know or care about Xena. But yeah, also, honestly, it won't matter. One of the things that you have to remember is you don't want to spend too much time over clarifying. If people are behaving in the scene as they would, as they need to, and we recognize for whatever reason, we don't really need to know why she's saying go away, Xena. All we need to know is that she's just not dealing. And then, sorry, I was sort of half in the scene. Within a minute, we are going to have them talk for the first time. And when they talk, we are going to get caught up. So it's okay to not, this is actually really important. I know everyone worries all the time about explaining and clarifying. And constantly people are talking in script analysis and script teaching about how much you have to get information and clarity to the reader. It's not actually the most important thing. The most important thing is the dramatic flow of the scene and the behavior of the characters, because as they behave, we will catch up. Some of the most fun we have is not knowing exactly where everyone stands at every moment in a script. But knowing that for whatever reason, Madeleine is turning her down. And now we are about to have them talk, and we will learn. Because right now, we don't know who Xena is. We have just met Xena. We have no clue what she has to do, but little bits of, and that's part of the fun of a scene, is you have this person who's been calling Madeleine, and we don't know why, but Madeleine is turning her down. And so all we know is Xena is intruding. That's all we know. Then we cut to Xena. Now remember, we've never met Xena. We don't know anything about Xena. So in our audience experience, we're going, what's this about? That's fun. That's exciting for the audience. If everything is obvious, if everything is explained, if everything is laid out, then you just sort of sit back and you go, yeah, that's okay. But if you're like, who's this? And then, she's good. Actually, oh, that's a good idea. Xena. She's going to say, Xena, what do you think about fish for dinner tonight? So now we know it's Xena, because the fact is, we don't even know this is Xena, And so the cool thing is, we've just seen, we've spent the amount of time that we are feeling confusion is minor. And remember, some confusion is fun. That's the point. There is a weird level in which we are trying to confuse the audience. We're trying to keep them off balance. As long as we know we are going to not let them descend into chaos, they want us to unveil the story piece by piece. So we cut to Xena. We know Madeleine was on the phone, and now Xena's on the phone. So we have a sort of subliminal connection there. And then Xena mom comes through and says, Xena. So now we know that it's the person who's been calling. And then she says, within just a few lines, a friend of mine just died. Bingo. We now know that this is a friend of George. So that's good. That's good writing there. um, and it's been 45 minutes, so I think I'm gonna stop because we're about to get into a new section, a whole new thing with Xena and Madeleine, and that's for another time. So yeah, that's where we are. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I am. We're actually making progress. We've gotten out of the beginning. We are now moving ahead, and that's cool. And that's it. That's it. Tomorrow is another day. I think I might be doing just a straight Ask Me Anything because I haven't done one of those this week. But either way, it'll either be more of this or more of that. More of me is the main thing that you're going to be getting. See ya.